You are now listening to the I Think I Love My Wife podcast. And this is your best friend's best friend, Chidozie Okafor, ready to take you on another journey. Are you with me? Because I'm ready. Let's get it. In this episode, we talk about falling in love with your best friend, the importance of having a partner that's self-sufficient, lessons learned from being friend-zoned, the value of getting dating experience, and navigating being in love but not being ready for marriage. What's going on, people? Happy to be back. Happy to be talking to a guy that I've grown to know over the years. And the interesting fact about this guy, his name is Bryan. Say hello, Bryan.
Hey, what's going on?
He's probably one of the first people that I told that I was thinking about doing a podcast. And so I'm glad that we could get him on here. He has a great story. And for those that wanted to see guys that have been married longer, he's definitely one of those guys. So before we start, like in typical fashion, I want to do a toast. And I would say this toast is to brotherhood, to mentorship, and to the sustainability of marriage. Let's cheers it up.
All right, cheers.
So try to bring you something special. You know, I know, you're cultured, and so your palate is developed. So I hope this one you approve.
No, this is incredible. Thanks.
All right, so let's just dive deep and give people some context to just, I would say situation, but it's not a situation, to your relationship. Mm-hmm. So how long have you known your wife?
I've known my wife for going on, what would that be? Maybe 29 years.
Wow. That's almost as long as I've been in love.
Right. Exactly.
Didn't mean to put it in that context.
Exactly.
We talked about this a little bit, but how long did you guys date before you proposed?
So we actually have almost like a storybook story, right? And so the short answer is we dated 10 years before we got married, but I met my wife 3 years before we started dating. Yeah. So I met my wife in high school.
Okay. I was going to say, some people cringe when they're like, you were dating her for 10 years?
Exactly. Well, that's one reason why it took 10 years, but I met my wife in high school. So I was in the 10th grade. She was in the 9th grade. And
you were like 15?
Yeah, pretty much. And so I made a bet with somebody that I could get her number, and I bet
that's usually how it starts.
Yeah, exactly. That I bet $1 that I could get her number, and got her number in the hallway, and then as we did back then, I spent a lot of time with her on the phone talking, and really thought she was feeling me, and then when I tried to make my move and move it to something more than friendship, she friend zoned me. She wasn't having it, or she wasn't feeling me in that way. And, I took it like most teenage boys would at the time, but it took me about 2 weeks. And then I was like, okay, I was like, that's fine. We'll just be cool. Cause she was really cool. So she and I were really cool, almost like best friends throughout the rest of high school. So I dated, she was my girlfriend that I would go to talk about other girls. Yeah, she was a homie, and vice versa, and really didn't have any romantic feelings for her. But I think what happened is throughout the 3 years, I was drinking milk, and I was growing,
put some weight up,
get my weight up, and then I remember I went to prom with this other girl that I just knew I was in love with at the time, but really things weren't really working that well, and I really wasn't dating her, so it's kind of weird. But that summer after I graduated is when my wife and I got together, and it was more of kind of, people think
like right before college, or?
Yeah, it was right before college.
Okay.
So it was the summer after I graduated from high school, and it was one of those things. And what's funny is that I already knew that I loved her. Like, we would do this, I love, or you love me, and it was like, no, you love me, but it was kind of on some friendship stuff, but on some flirty friendship stuff, I think. And then what happened was that I think she really started feeling me, and I didn't even know it, because she had you
He's
know,
like, I'm
friend
cool.
zone.
I'm already good in the friend zone.
Yeah. I was like, and people don't make it out of the friend zone, right?
Typically.
You don't think that you make it out the friend zone, but that's when, and it's funny because a lot of times men think that we like run things in relationships, and women have most of the control. And it was like when she was ready, that's when we were able to get together. And then so that was right after high school, and we dated all through college.
You guys go to the same school?
We did,
Okay,
and that's
so
another
made
thing.
it convenient.
Yeah, kind of, because I was a year older, right? So I was a year older. My freshman year, we dated, and then when it was time for her to go to college, she applied to the college that I was at, and then I applied to the college to her number one choice too, and then we were going to see how things worked out. And when she got into her number one choice, which was at HBCU, I decided that I was going to go to school with her. And so I transferred, and I worked like over summers because I had in-state tuition, all that kind of thing. I worked over summers, like two and a half jobs sometimes to save up tuition so I could go to school with her. Now, at the time, I didn't tell my parents that because I'm like 19 years old, and they were like, "What are you doing following that girl?" And I'm like, "I'm not following her. You know, I don't like it at this school, whatever." But it was like I knew that that's who I wanted to marry. Like when I was about 19, I knew that she was the one, and I was going to do what I needed to do to make it happen. And I also knew as a college freshman who had been drinking milk that I wasn't going to be able to how do I say this? I wasn't going to be able to fight some of those temptations of college life if I wasn't with her. It was not gonna work. So
that's fair.
Yeah. So I did. So I made that decision at 19. Best decision I ever made in my life, and we've been together ever since.
And so I want to go a little bit deeper on some of the stuff you said, but I want to get through this part first. And so just remind me. But I can imagine you saying that I knew I loved her at 19, and then I give you a 4-year pardon because you were in school, but then it was like 6 more years and you still didn't marry this woman.
Right.
What took so long? I know people want to know that, but let's get through your context and then we'll get back to it. And so you talked about how long you've known her, and then you guys have been married for how long?
We've been married, it'll be 17 years this summer.
17 years. I mean, congrats. Congrats. What do you do for a living?
I'm in higher ed.
Okay. And what does your wife do?
She's an educator, high school teacher.
Okay, nice. And then from a, I guess, upbringing standpoint, what was like the situation at home for you? Were your both your parents around? Was it a single parent?
Yeah. So actually, both my parents were around, but it was my bonus dad. I had a stepfather, and my mother who were never married. Honestly, they just lived together the whole time.
Your bonus father?
Yeah, my bonus father. So I think he moved in when I was maybe 6 years old, and until my mom passed about 7 years ago, they were together. So, and then, I had my biological dad too, and it's actually his birthday today. He passed as well, but yeah, this is his birthday. But I did have a 2-parent house. Yeah, exactly. I grew up in a 2-parent household, and my wife did also.
As well.
Yeah, her parents have been married over 50 years now.
Wow. Yeah, I put the numbers up there.
I know, right?
Were your parents married when you were born?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
my parents were.
You were still young, but there was divorce, and then she, not remarried, but another situation where you had a father figure around. Okay, cool. And then I know the answer to this, but children, do you have children?
I do.
How many?
I have 2 children. I have a 14-year-old and an 11-year-old. 2 daughters.
You get into that stage where, I don't know if you remember Bad Boys 2.
Yeah, with the gun.
That's about to be you in a couple of years.
Right. Well, what's crazy is that my oldest daughter is the same age as my wife was when I met her in the hallway and got her number, and she goes to the same school. So
that no one's placing bets.
Right. So that's surreal, man. That's surreal for sure.
So let's just dive into it. Tell me, what do you love about your wife?
Oh man, there's a whole lot. I think we've been friends for so long, but I think the biggest thing is she has a really good sense of humor. She compliments me in so many ways. More more in deed. She doesn't like tell me how great I am all the time, but she, like, where I'm weak, she's strong. Seriously. Where she's the general of the household. I mean, I love that. I love that she's a lot more organized. She keeps things running around here. But the biggest thing, at the end of the day, I know that she rides for me, you know, and what's interesting is early in our relationship, she was more selfish. And that's one thing that's changed over time, that if I had a fan club, she'd be the president of my fan club at this point. Just
before she wasn't.
Before
she's like general member.
Yeah, she was the general member. Right. So I mean, that's just it. She's a very spiritual, godly person. Like, sometimes I'm like, man, I hope I can get to heaven to be with you, because I know you're going. I don't know about myself all the time, but that's another thing that I really love about her.
Okay, and so when you think about what you just said in terms of, you know, the things or why you love your wife, and then I'm sure she has a slew of strengths that anybody that has worked with her acknowledges, but like, what do you think makes her special to you?
I'd say just her, like, I could never have a pushover as a wife, and she's sharp, and she's gonna give me pushback, and I'm the type of person that if you're not strong, I will roll over you. You know?
I feel I'm similar. So
yeah, exactly. And so I need a partner who's going to speak up. And I think everybody that you would talk to that knows her would say, you know, you don't mess around with her. She's going to tell you how she feels. And she's that's very additive to our relationship. And that's what I love the most. You know, I think that sometimes people think of love as like a feeling. I think of love as action in a lot of ways, and just that action and how she contributes to making us better. I just love that about her.
No, I think that's real, and part of what you say or saying resonates with me. I think I'm a very much show my love through action versus words, and I think words for me matter more, but fewer. Like, I want to say it, and you know it means something because I don't say it often type of person.
For sure.
And I think I also find that attractive in women, that there's like a level of reassurance. We don't have to worry about it, because you know, regardless of whatever scenario comes to play, she'll figure it out and she'll take care of it. And I don't know that you can put a value, like a value on what that really means, to not have to put mental capacity towards something, because you know it's covered.
Well, and that's exactly right. I always, you know, people talk about relationships being 50-50. I think of them as 100-100, right? So it's everybody puts 100% in, but at the same time, I think if you have, for me, I'm not turned on by taking care of people. like I'm not like naturally a nurturer, you know. I'm very ambitious, and I know my wife doesn't need me. You know, if I wasn't around, she'd be just fine. She would figure it out, and she does a lot of the time. You know, I have a pretty travel heavy job, and I know things are taken care of. Sometimes I probably get in the way a little bit, but that
come on, like, you're messing up the process.
Right, exactly. What are you doing? So that's one thing that I love about her. She's very self-sufficient.
No, it's great. You mentioned at 19 you knew that you loved her, correct?
Yeah, well, it's probably 18.
18.
Yeah, 18.
Quite a young age for most guys. Mm-hmm. And you also say, I knew that this was the one, right?
Yeah.
What? I know you guys were friends, but was there a moment that like did it for you? Well, I know you're going back in years.
No, yeah, I'm going back, but I've thought about this a lot. I've always just been different anyway, right? So I was always like that kid that would like who wanted to have like perfect attendance for whatever reason. I was that kid that was like you know, I wouldn't. Oh, this is interesting. I remember my aunt told me about soul ties, like the first person that you have sex with, your soul will be tied to them for the rest of your life. And I was somebody who internalized that as a young person, right? Yeah. And so when I was in fourth grade, I don't know what made me think of this. It's probably some New Edition album or something like that. But
probably a lot of tracks you could pick from.
Absolutely. But it was like, I want my girlfriend to be my best friend. That's how it started. Fourth grade, I remember this like it was yesterday. I want my girlfriend to be my best friend. And I went through middle school and high school, and I have another female friend who we're really close. We got cool in middle school, and I thought that she was going to be the one who I ended up marrying. Mm-hmm. And then when my wife, we ended up getting cool, and then just the way that it happened without me really realizing it. And once we went from that friendship to that romantic relationship, I was like, oh, well, that's it. That makes sense. So this is who I was meant to be with. And then it was like a mental thing for me. It was like, and I'm kind of like that. Like, I'll just decide, and then everything else comes afterwards. It's kind of weird, but yeah, that's how I knew. It's just when kind of that, I don't want to say prophecy, but that thought that I had back when I was in fourth grade came to fruition. I was like, oh, well, that's it. It was very logical to me, and that's what happened.
It seems like your stories, like the fairy tale, what people want to like see in the movies and hope to happen. Not necessarily what most people experience. And given that you guys dated, but then went to college together, you guys did a lot of life together. Mm-hmm. That I would say is not necessarily indicative of how people are meeting each other.
Right,
so,
for sure.
Not to say, and times have changed a lot since you were available.
Yeah.
So when you think about, not to put yourself in how would you date today standpoint, but I mean, 5 years from now, your daughters are probably going to be, at least the oldest one will be dating and things like that. And you're around a lot of people that are single and probably looking for their partner and things like that. So I'm sure you hear some of the tales that people are going through to try to find their partner.
The apps and the profiles.
So when you think about what you know about the landscape of dating, and knowing that, next 5-10 years, your daughters are going to be in that, like, what are your thoughts on dating today and the challenges or what people are doing wrong or could be doing right?
Right. So, I mean, when I talk to like my friends who are my age, who are like in their 40s now, I mean, this just seems weird. It really does. In that, there are so many, like, technology has come into play. Yeah. That's one thing that people think about, but also the way that people date. I remember having younger cousins who are like probably your age now, but they're probably 10 years younger than me. And when they were in high school, they weren't dating people. It was like we had that time in high school where I remember bringing my girlfriend home to meet my parents in high school, and she remembers the same thing. It never happened. And it was more like they would date like in groups or something. I didn't know what that was. Out. Yeah, they just hang out, right? And it was nothing official. And I feel like that the technology has only become a conduit to create the connections in the way that they were already connecting before. It just wasn't as official. It was a lot more casual. And it'll be interesting because my daughters are in the next generation, they're and it'll be interesting to see what's happening and if they're dating the same way. I would not be surprised if they're not dating the same way that you're dating, right? What I think in terms of what's good about it, like, I was never one of those people that was down on like internet dating. Like, I remember being in early chat rooms and talking to people in chat rooms. Yeah, when I lived in the Chicago area, there was this City Alert chat room was one of the first ones, and we would it would be a bunch of people we'd chat, and then we would meet up later, and it was like, man, these people that I've been chatting with are the same online as they are in person. So I was like, it makes sense for you to meet people online. And the good thing about that is it allows you to expand that the number of people that you're in contact with, hoping that it, and so you think that you have more people to choose from and you're able to find a better match. What's unfortunate about it, actually, one of because I am around a lot of people who are younger now and dating. I remember one time one of my friends who's younger let me pick his
let
me swipe for him, and it was so in like 5 minutes it trivialized the whole process to me. It was almost like the people weren't people anymore. And I don't even want to say it objectified people. It's just like trivialized them. I felt like I was on Amazon, and I think that, you know, that would be the thing that I would struggle with the most, because I feel like you end up either playing it like a game, or you're never with one person long enough to form that connection. And even getting back to what you were saying about, you know, my story being different than other people's story and the fairy tale and all that. It's the fairy tale on paper. Like people,
definitely.
Like people don't. Like I had to give up a lot to have this story, but like I said, you know, like I said before, I thought about this story too, and one of the draws for me was I want to be different than everybody else, and I was like, one day we're gonna be able to say that we did this, and people will be like, wow, that's amazing, and now I'm living that now. So anyway, I think that for my kids, I don't know what it'll look like. I would not be surprised if it changes, but I'm sure I'll have some specific thoughts on
some privacy settings.
Yeah, privacy settings, and and the advice that I'll give, because I think a lot of people, a lot of women, like in their 20s, women, like that's their time, you know, like they have all the control in their 20s. You start getting to the 30s, and now the balance of power changes a little bit. Now, you know, the clock's ticking. Yeah, the clock's ticking. Men
might not have been the first pick.
Absolutely.
Used to be.
Yeah, exactly. And they probably passed over a bunch of guys who were high quality, and they're not coming back. You know,
zoned them.
Exactly. Friend zoned and wrote them off in the friend zone. Like I always feel maybe I'm biased because I'm a friend zone survivor, but I'm like, man, that's friend zone survivor. I'm like, that's the best place to find your partner in the friend zone. But most women that I talk to are like, oh no, that's just a friend. I'm like, men, you know how men are. Like,
I know exactly how men are. But before I go deep on that, let me get a word in from our sponsor. If times are tough right now, then I know how important saving money can be. Sharper Services, an ACN independent business owner, works with its clients to provide great rates on all home-related bills like electricity, cable, internet, to name a few. Check out www.sharperservices.com. That's Sharper Services plural with an S, to get a free quote and start the process to save money now. He provides this free of charge, it's convenient, and he makes things hassle-free. Tell him the podcast sent you, and look for more details in the episode description. But going back to how men are, I try to tell people, I said, hey, once a guy's over the age of like 25, 26, he's not trying to make any more female friends.
Yeah.
He got the female friends that he wants or he's okay with.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not, and not to say that the guy can't make new healthy relationships with women that are strictly platonic, but he's not proactively putting in work to build a new friendship.
Right.
If it kind of happens because we're friends and this chick is always around and we become friends.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
But he's not, let me call her to see how she's doing today because I want to be her friend.
Right.
And it's funny because when you talk to different people, women like, oh, but he said we would be friends. It's like, this man's not trying to be, he's hoping for that one opportunity.
Absolutely.
Where either you change your mind, he catches you slipping.
Yeah. What is it? Break the glass?
He's not actively hanging around because he's like, I enjoy your friendship.
Right.
Beyond the age of 25, 26.
Right. Or, and to your point, even if he is doing that, you know, if he is hanging out with you, if there's some attraction, the minute that you're ready, he's ready. He's ready to go. It's nothing. Yeah, absolutely.
No, you said something that made me think of, you're talking about your kind of fairy tale and that you knew in fourth grade. And so I had someone that I talked to, and his perspective was that he doesn't advise people like dating and being in a serious relationship in college because that's where you're learning your preferences and experimenting and things like that. He feels like you don't really know what you want and what you really like if you haven't had a lot of experiences. Right. I would say that about food, right? If you ever taste a lot of food, you don't really know what you like or what's good. And so as someone that didn't necessarily have what would be the average level of interactions with different people, I don't ask this in a way like curious if the grass is greener or not, but I'm more curious of how do you feel like it's changed or your perspective might have been changed if you've had other experiences beyond your wife, because it seems like that's it's not 100% of your experience, like 90+%.
Right. Yeah. I think it's just different for different people. And like I said, I've known that I'm different like for a really long time. And part of the appeal for me was just to do things that other people hadn't done. Like, so for me personally, like I get kind of more satisfaction from the fact that I did it, that I'm doing it differently than I think I would had I just been all over the place. Now, just because I dated for so long doesn't mean I don't have any other experiences, right? And I do think in those experiences, what I tended to find was that if it was just physical, it wasn't pleasurable. It wasn't as pleasurable. I've always been in it. Might come back to the soul ties thing, and where for me the physical piece was never only physical. I think that I was with enough people where it's like, this is it feels exactly the same with other people, but with this person, it doesn't. It's better. So
when you say with other people, did y'all break up and get back together?
Yeah, so
let's walk us through the
look, that's where it starts getting crazy. No, so we did have like a 1 year hiatus, but that was
while y'all were in college, after college.
Yeah, in college.
Okay.
Yep, it was a 1 year hiatus, and then when we did 5 years of the 10 years, we were 5 years. We were separated by 5 years, or we were long distance 5 years. Yeah. And so in that, you have some growing to do in that type of thing. Is that the
back half, so after college, or?
It was after college, typically after college, but it was staggered. It was weird. It was like we went to college together, ended up at the same college. I graduated a year early, so I did a year in another city. Mm-hmm. She was actually 3 years in a different city. So that was 3 years. And then I went back to grad school, and we did grad school at the same time in the same area. So we were together for 2 years during that grad school. And then I went and lived, I moved away after graduating and spent another year where we weren't together. But by that time we were engaged.
Gotcha.
So it was almost 10 years to the day that we actually got, that we started dating, that we got married, and it was split up. But so basically what it was that, as you're growing, you definitely, I think I could understand the argument that you should go and see something else. And I think in the limited time that, that we did that, we were able to say, nah, this is what we like. And then the other good thing that I think from a fairy tale perspective happened with us is, again, like we were homies, you know what I'm saying? Like we were and are now, we are like best friends. And I do think that when you're trying to preserve your friendship, and then also when you're not humble enough to when you have something good and you're not humble enough to get caught cheating, and to humble yourself to the level that you have to get back with that person, because that's really what keeps me faithful. It's like if I got caught, I figure I have to do a 5-year bid of just eating shit like every day to get back. And I'm not going through that, because I already know like when I've had intimate relationships, if it's that, it's not even worth it. It's like, I don't want to say a piece of meat, but it's just whatever. It's not meaningful. But that's how I'm wired too. Other people are wired differently.
And so help me understand your decision to propose, or the journey to get there. Because, I would think, okay, this is the homie.
Yeah.
If I'm listening, this is the homie. You already know that you love this person. Mm-hmm. You making all these arrangements for you guys to be together in the same school. You graduate and you said about 3 years before you went back to school. Mm-hmm. Why didn't you just, what were we waiting on? Like, why did it take so long?
So this is another thing that's really great about our relationship. My wife and I are planners. Like, pretty much everything, we were like, all right, like once we were solid that we were together, we knew that we were like, we both want to go to grad school. We both want to do these other things. We're just going to wait until after that's over, just because of the complexity of everything else that was going on. And it was like, what's the rush? Right. And
you didn't feel like it was be a risk?
I never worried.
Like the more you see stuff, the more foods you try, the more you like, well, I might have another favorite.
Yeah, I don't.
I mean, you see it.
Yeah,
you see
no,
people that
absolutely.
Come up here,
I know about the turkey drop. I know about that.
You go to grad school before
Yeah.
Thanksgiving, it's over.
Well, listen, and I'll tell you that was a struggle. You know, like my first year of grad school. Sure, you're going and you're seeing all these, you know, great, intelligent, beautiful.
Cool.
You know, that's the other pool where you better. I think you should find you. But that's a good time for you to find who you want or whatever. And you absolutely are thinking that. And I struggled with that too. But I don't know. I just feel like we just never worried about it. It's weird. I mean, I never worried about that. It was like we had our plan. We were going to do it. And so that wasn't a big deal. I will say we got engaged between my first and second year of business school. Okay. So it was like December of my second year.
He's like, we got through Thanksgiving.
We got through 2 Thanksgivings. I think it's right. And what's interesting about that is, even though I dated her for that long, there was still part of me that was like, oh, I'm not really sure, just if I'm ready, right? And this ran through my mind. And what happened was that I kind of realized that I kind of felt like once I got to about 85% sure, then that's when I proposed. I wasn't 100% sure that I was ready to get married and ready to be, quote, tied down forever. But once I was about 85%, that's when I did it.
So what does that mean? So you say, on one hand, I love this person. Yeah. I know she's my person. It's not even worth risking messing it up because of what I may have to deal with or losing this person. Mm-hmm. But I'm also not sure that I want to marry this person. Like, where's the reconcile that?
So it wasn't that I wasn't sure I wanted to marry her. It was that I wasn't sure that I was ready to be married.
So reconcile that, because you're essentially doing, other than your money and the government, y'all are doing life together
to an extent. But we never moved in together either. That's another thing. Minus
living that. You guys are essentially making plans.
Yeah,
life changing plans together. You guys are almost doing life together.
Yeah, no.
You just wasn't ready for it to be in your space.
Well, here's what it was. Honestly, it was for me personally, and she might have been different, but for me, I didn't know if I was ready to never hunt again and to never be desired again. Because even though I had a girlfriend, like sometimes when you have a girlfriend, you still get a lot lot of attention from.
Yeah. I mean, when you're married,
I don't know. That doesn't happen to me. That never happens to me now. But it was one of these things where it was like, am I ready to not be desired?
Like, I don't need to use the gun, but am I ready to put it up?
Exactly. But it's a mental thing, right? And a lot of it is you know about like hyper masculinity, and like we're kind of conditioned to like that means something to us. Mm-hmm. And for me, that's what it was. And especially in an environment like business school and all this kind of thing. But so it was more like, yeah, I think so. I think I'm ready. But am I ready to be that married guy? Because once I'm that married guy, you know, it's time to grow the gut out. And
you get washed.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to getting washed one day.
Right, exactly.
I don't have to worry about what I'm wearing when I go out.
Right. But I'm a Kappa too, so you know I always care. I don't know if
you just lowered the engagement level.
Right. Yeah, but that's what. But that's what it was. It was just like mentally, am I ready to not be desired and not even have the back and forth? Because here's the other thing, like I could flirt all day if I'm not married, and I can only flirt so much if I'm with someone without being that scumbag, right? Yeah. And there's varying degrees. I just didn't know if I was ready to take that next step. It was more of that.
It's
I
like
knew I wanted to
marry.
Turn
turn off.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you said, is it a switch?
It's like a switch you have to turn off,
right,
in terms of your like degrees that you can interact, right?
Absolutely.
And so you in your mind know that, like, I don't know if I'm mentally ready for all that comes with marriage. Mm-hmm. And you said that you and your now wife, you guys are planners. Was there any, I don't want to use the word pressure, but was she kind of like, hey man, we've been doing this, what's going on? Or she was like, well, I know this is the game plan. Did she have any like inclination that like there was some hesitancy on your end? Or it was just, you know, she was going with the plan. She knew it was going to happen at some point, and she just.
I mean, and we kind of opened this, like, my wife just knew she's going to be fine regardless. You know, it was like she didn't need me.
She's getting older. You know,
she never.
But the reason why I ask, because you know, I won't say a lot, but there's women out there that time is ticking. Like, what are we doing? They'll be fine too, but they're investing a lot in the individual. And unfortunately, there've been a lot of situations where guys drag them along and then end up not doing anything with it. And so there was you don't think there was any reservation on her end?
I do not. I'm telling you. Well, number one, we
you're
weren't
wasting her time,
and we weren't that old either, right? So we
but
were
10 years though. This is not like I met you
yesterday,
and
it's 10 years from at like 17.
That mean I know you. Like, it's not like, I wonder what she was doing in undergrad. What kind of life, you know what life she was living.
Yeah, no,
in her past, you know it.
Look, you have to interview her one day and see if she says it. No, I never felt pressure. I never felt pressure. We just, and that's like, it's probably a blessing that it was like that. I think that we developed just a deeper level of trust, maybe, because like I said, our story isn't like everybody's, but she was, and the other thing that I will say, I feel like I married up, like, seriously.
You want that to be the feeling,
right? I do. I mean, I always tell her, I'm like, I don't even think that I was good enough for you, and she'll never say that she felt the same way, but I think that she probably felt like, if he's not going to do it, I'm gonna be fine. I'll find somebody else, subconsciously, because she didn't put any pressure on me at all. We never felt that pressure.
No, I think most guys, at least me personally, I want to feel like I'm married up. Not that like that I'm like I got way more than I bargained for, right? And I feel like Kevin Hart's like I'm trying not to fuck it up. This may not happen again.
Right.
I think that's the feeling that a lot of guys want, or at least that I want in it. As you were talking about how she may have felt, and the fact that at least in y'all's interactions you didn't feel pressure, and that might have helped. Like, what would have been like if you were getting pressure? Like, if you guys doing things like, hey, when we finished school, we've been working. I know you got money.
Right.
Like, what we waiting on?
Yeah.
How would that might have changed the dynamic of the process if you felt like there was more of a pressure for you to?
Yeah. I mean, if it wouldn't be as natural, and I think that it wouldn't be as solid for sure. I wouldn't. If I was pressured to do something, then I'm not doing it of my own volition, right? It's like I was coerced, and I think it probably wouldn't have been as strong. I understand. I have like female cousins and stuff, and I'll watch them date people, and I see men like trying to sit on their time clock, right, and not committing, and because this is one thing I do believe too. I believe from seeing a lot of my friends and just how men behave. Like, when men really want somebody, they don't mess around. Like, they go get it, right? They're not delaying moving the relationship forward. If they don't, then sometimes they're a little wishy-washy. But so I think that I don't like to be coerced, and I don't like to be pressured. And that sometimes she'd tell you, I hate to be told what to do as well, even though she still gets her way most of the time, but she just has to know how to get it, right? But yeah, it wouldn't be good just because I'm not that type of person.
I think something you said is real, that oftentimes once a guy realizes it's something he wants, we kind of problem solvers. We figure out how to get it. And so, and I think I'm like that too, when, I don't want to be told what to do. I wanted to do it because I wanted to do it. And so a lot of people, even in my interactions of dating, and I was just having a conversation yesterday with someone that, when you're dating now, you're on the woman's clock. Mm-hmm. Like, everything's about, at least in the beginning, everything's about them. And even you said it wasn't until she turned that switch that you were like, okay, yeah, we could do this. Mm-hmm. If she hadn't turned the switch on, then who knows what would have happened with both of y'all. And so I asked the question, and curious to get your thoughts, because I think a lot of times it's a catch-22, because there are a lot of guys that are playing around and have probably scarred women in a lot of different ways, because they know how to communicate, they're playing, they weren't being honest about what's going on. And so some of it's a defensive mechanism.
Sure.
But it seems like there's clocks out there. And so once a woman has got enough information that she's interested and this could be something, she's ready for you to make some moves.
Right.
And if you don't, it's like you're playing. But there are a lot of cases where you had the luxury of knowing this person for a while, where you're still trying to get to know the person on a level that you're in a more condensed time, trying to say, am I willing to stop all these things, turn these switches off, not do a lot of things that, if you think about it in the most organic and natural way possible, right? You say, hey, I met this person in high school. went to college together. I got to know him. And even with all the data that you had about this person, you still were like, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And so then now you meet someone and it's like, it's been 6 months. And they're like, you don't know what you want?
Right. No, and
it's a weird feeling because it's like, it's not a function of, do I not know if I want to? I think as you get older, I think it changes. Like from like, hey, are we going to date? And we just see what happens with it. And I'm going to be just kind of invested in you. And now, like, at least for me, I'm like, if I date you, I'm like looking to like marry you. So me accepting you or moving forward as my girlfriend, I'm kind of saying like, there's going to be a period of time where if this doesn't work, I've lost opportunities to see who else can be there. And so it's a increased level of seriousness to gal someone up, because it's like I'm galling my wife versus like when I was 24.
Absolutely.
I wasn't like I'm about to gal my wife. I'm just a chick. We'll see where it goes.
Right.
And the whole construct has. So thinking about it through that construct, but then these clocks are ticking. It's tough, and I don't think they get it all the time on the other end.
I totally see that too. And there's certain people, especially I'll talk to people now who've been dating somebody for 3 years and they haven't proposed, and I'm like, bro, that it's probably about time. And I do think like once you get to a certain, like if you're 20, you have some time. If you're 25, have some time. 30, it's a different time frame. And I could see if I were a woman now and I'm around 30 and we're dating for, I'd probably say a year and a half is about when, if a woman was ready to be proposed to after a year and a half, then I would totally understand that. So that I'm not saying the clock is wrong, right? But what I do think that sometimes men should understand that a little bit more. And then also that if you are dating with the goal of getting married, you should pre-qualify, number one. And then number two, you should date with some intentionality.
Of course,
that, right?
Of course, I totally agree, and I'm not saying this to cast blame on the clocks. I'm just saying that like I get the clock, get it for a lot of reasons, not including like biologically, right? But if you think about what you went through, all the information you had, and there was still some like, I don't know. Condensing your 10 years into 2.
Yeah.
Like it makes it tough to like make that jump. It's a harder decision because you have so fewer data points.
Right.
And in a condensed amount of time, that the clock is the clock, but I think it increases the magnitude of should I do this or not?
Absolutely. It's a lot more risky.
I don't know if that's always perceived. That like the level of sensitivity that question has, because it's like, in the ideal case, it took this man 10 years. Yeah. With all the information. We date every once a week. Well, I've literally seen you 52 times.
Yeah.
Had 52 experiences with you. And now I got like, am I going to do forever with you?
Well, and this, to me, I think some of this kind of gets back to your question about, testing all these flavors as well, right? Because what I do think is that sometimes it causes confusion. It's like looking at porn or something, right? And there's like all these different types of porn, you could have this and that and that. And it gets to the point where there's just like too much, like you're confused. And I think that does happen. The other thing, when there is all this variety, the other thing that's an interesting phenomenon, a lot of the guys that I know who are the biggest players, who had the most women, by the time they settle down, they end up settling down with like a mud duck, like just unattractive in every possible way. And what I believe is that they lose the ability to sense the right connection because it's like having all this confusion dulls that instinct to find the right person. And unfortunately, like we talked about, the way that we were conditioned growing up, we're like, oh, that's the thing. But oftentimes I just think it hurts the process. So that actually slows it down. If you are allowing yourself to connect and you don't have the at least the perception of this fallback to jump right back on the app, and then I'll have 5 more coming up. Now you're being a little bit more vested in the relationships that you do have, as opposed to, just surfing again.
Yeah, I think it's interesting you say that, because I was just talking to someone else that was married yesterday, and we were talking to this girl we know, and she hasn't dated in a minute because she's been busy time, but she's realizing I need to be more invested in that part of her life. And, one of the things I believe in and that we both recommend to her is, like, date and have fun, because you need to know what you like and don't like. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing wrong, at least I would say, to dating multiple people at the same time, to figure out what it is. Because I get there's like a balance, right? You don't need to like fall back on like, well, this doesn't work, I got the app. But I think that the more time you spend with people, you either want to be around them more or less.
Right.
It may take 3 months to realize what it is, or a year, but the more time we interact, I really like more and more about them, or I'm starting to see things that I don't. Mm-hmm. And so if you're dating multiple people, you're going to come to a time where you're thinking about the other person while you're with someone else. Right. Or if you realize you're not thinking about them, how much do they really matter to you? Mm-hmm. So I think it helps in some ways, but I also know there are people that need to be really focused on like one individual. And I think you do risk what you said of like having so many people that like you don't ever put enough time into anything.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
so you kind of lukewarm, right? Mm-hmm. With the process. I think within that, I guess what are your thoughts as it relates to, in that get to know you stage, one person, multiple people, or?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And again, I think it's just going to depend on the person. Some people can juggle, some people can't. What I also think though is sometimes when you meet somebody in a dating environment, it almost makes it unnatural. Like makes the interactions a little bit unnatural. Like sometimes I just wonder, instead of doing all this dating, why not like do some community service with some different people and get and see who's there and get to know somebody.
Organically meet.
Yeah, and just organically meet people. Go to church or do it's just something where dating isn't the premise, because in a perfect world, you mentioned men say, oh, I don't have any need for more friends. Perfect world, everybody would be trying to be friends and get to know each other and hang out. And then you'd figure out kind of who, just through the organic piece, you'd meet up with them.
Who you talk to
exactly. But the construct is so different now, which makes it difficult. So I think it just depends on the person. Some people can handle it. Some people can't handle multiple people at one time. And as long as you're sufficiently open about it, and you're communicating what needs to be communicated, then you just have to manage it that way.
Wise words from a wise man. Speaking of managing, I have to manage our time here, and this is a wrap for today. I hope everyone enjoyed it. Bryan, thank you for your time. Tune in next week when I continue my conversation with Bryan, and we talk about navigating the clock and compressed timelines that women have, dealing with unhappiness in a marriage. We discuss through how do you find common ground when you have different sex drives, and we'll find out what this 95-5 rule is all about. Please make sure you tell a friend. Subscribe to the podcast at I Think I Love My Wife on all major platforms. Follow us at Think Love Wife on Instagram, and be sure to leave a written review if you have Apple Podcasts. Until next time, I hope the conversation keeps going.